Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. It's finally match day again. It feels like, I don't know, 4 days since the last one. On a compressed schedule, this is sort of what you get. You get us twice a week, which is more joy for you and obviously more joy for us. I'm Kelly Francis, joined here with John Nelson. We're going to have a packed show tonight. We've got Jarrett coming on and also Jason coming on a little later. But we're just going to start with just me and John for right now because you know what? That's good enough, right, John? That's
Oh, let's. I want to line it up. I want to hear what we got. Three matches that we kind of wanted to look at a little bit as we get into this one. But I know that there's one match in particular we haven't heard your thoughts on specifically, and there's a hashtag that's usually associated with it, and it's got 4 letters. And
I can imagine.
Orlando.
Andrew Reynolds is so awesome.
So we're not talking about the most recent match because I'd rather talk about that one. Thankfully, probably not thankfully, but I was on vacation during this fateful match. And right around kickoff time, it was actually kind of wonderful how I heard it because I was still on the road at that time when kickoff started. I actually had my radio app on and I had 92.9 The Game pulled up. And so I was literally cruising through like the countryside of Virginia with all of my windows down, my dog's head just like out the window. And it's just blaring Mike Conti. And like I just made sure to slow down whenever I was around people so they could hear. And then of course everything else started happening, and then I sort of turned it down a little bit and just kept going. But it was sort of crazy for me, the just like how interconnected we are with radio, and that like literally anywhere on the globe I could literally just go onto an app and listen to Atlanta United play and hear Jason and Mike talking about this match. I actually ended up arriving right around the beginning of the second half. So we obviously at that point in time we're already down. Mm-hmm. But it was not a match I want to recall or think about very much. I just remember like mentally in my head putting together what Mike and Jason were saying when they were talking about a really bad fall. With Lennon, I actually never saw it. I never went back and rewatched the highlights because I didn't want to. Because since I wasn't going to be able to make Friday, I told myself there's no point. But I just remember, and so it was just like literally he just fell directly on his head because I never went back and rewatched it.
It was Lennon was given a yellow, and he was scratching his head as to the why. And it led itself to the Nani set piece that went off the post that would have made it 2-0 at that point. But it did not happen. And then coming back the other way, you had the Brooks Lennon opportunity with Adam John in the 80th minute, which ended up being the 5th save by Gillespie on the night. Do you just want to go ahead and skip ahead to stoppage time? Is that what you're leaning toward here?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay, all right, just checking. I wanted to see where you were going here. So. So the first 90 minutes of the match, we're just going to sit here and we're going to pick it up. We're going to put it over here off to the side. Mm-hmm. Now, all right. So from 90 to the end, Kelly, where were you when you were listening to Mike and Jason in the Virginia countryside?
Well, I was actually already on the couch at that point in time. Thankfully, I entered the house and my mom already knew what the scoreline was, so she already had a glass of wine in hand. So. By that time, I was probably already in my second glass. But, you know, stoppage time for us has always been this thing with Orlando where it's just really like I semi look forward to stoppage time, even if we're ahead, because it always means that somewhere in something we can like make it work. But
yes,
I just really like it's a match I don't want to. It happened. You know what? I called it, though. I didn't call it, but I did say that this would be the year that Orlando would probably win against us. I mean, Oscar Pereira, obviously, great coach. But, like, this is just something that was sort of inevitable, I feel like. So going into the end of the stoppage time, I was 2 wines deep, really emotional, and just sort of lethargically trying to stuff myself into a couch.
Okay. So, so Orlando wins at MBS, and then you have what happened this past weekend with Atlanta United and Orlando, and it's 1-1. And here's your statistic. Here's your statistic for the whole thing.
Okay.
In the final 30 minutes of the last 9 matches that Atlanta United have played Orlando City, Atlanta United has outscored Orlando 8-1.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, and so once again, Atlanta United down 1-0 in Orlando, come back, and then Jake Mulroney, great pass from Anton Walkes starts it all. So Anton Walkes gets the hockey assist. He goes to Jake Mulroney all the way down the left-hand side, sends it into the area. Adam John skies, puts it in the back of the net. You get 1-1 draw, and you get a point out of it.
Yeah, and I think what the most interesting point of this is that that's something that I obviously listen to soccer down here almost every morning if I can. I normally end up doing it on a little later time schedule because at 9 I actually have a standing work call. But it's something that they talked about and something that I definitely agree with. Atlanta needs to be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more dangerous in the final third. They need to lob balls in there. I mean, obviously you can take a little bit more risk and it not work out in the final third instead of doing it in the midfield and in our defensive third. But they needed to lob those balls, and you've got people that can go after headers. So if you have that ability to sort of service these guys, service them as much as possible. Obviously, we saw Cubo Torres with that header. Unfortunately, didn't go in. That's normally I don't want to say it's a sitter, obviously, because headers are normally difficult anyway. But that was something that we would have expected to have gone in, obviously, if that's Joseph playing up top. And Kubo is not the same player, and he also hasn't played in a while, so we have to understand that there's going to be a little bit of rust and a little bit of getting used to the players and getting used to being back on the field.
Right.
That's sort of something that we should see as a finishing result for a striker. Next time, I expect that to go in, or next time I expect that to be a little bit more dangerous. And require a save from the goalkeeper. But in the end, I think Atlanta did come to bat. They did try to win the game. They did try to earn points. And we saw that, obviously, with them continuously trying to make aggressive movements in the final third. Not as much as I think they should have probably done in this game. But I think as a result, and this is something that we're starting to see with this Atlanta United team, obviously it's not the best rendition of our squad that we've ever seen. But I do think that we're seeing fight from them at like the full 90. And that's something that I really appreciate, because it's something that we lost at the beginning of this year, is that fight sort of started dissipating towards the end of the 90 minutes. And this is a team that I'm seeing is fighting that full 90 plus stoppage to try to either tie, win, get some sort of points on the board. So that's something that I took away from this match outside of everything else that was going on, was that it's a team that is coming together at a time like this to fight. And we're not seeing the full fight right now just because it's still a lot of guys coming together in a very weird circumstance. But I do see the fight, and I think that that's the most important thing that I took away from this past match with Orlando.
Well, and here's the thing for me, and I think that Atlanta United can build from a match like this, where you're down most of the match, the second 45 is better than your first 45, and you have that moment at the end that galvanizes everything. You get the 1-1 draw, you get the point, you get the shush, which apparently has now been added into Atlanta United lore with Adam John shushing the hundreds of people that were there, but nevertheless, he still did the shush. So for those people that say this is not a rivalry because of how lopsided it's been, it's a rivalry. There is no dispute in this at all. This is a rivalry. And exactly. When you have moments like what Atlanta United was able to do with Adam John getting that equalizer about as later than late as you can get to get your point out of the deal on the road, with a roster that's still trying to come together, with all the new faces, trying to put folks in places and figure out where things are. This is a game where I think you can build from. You mentioned the fight that's there. You saw that fight. You saw them continuing to push late. And I think that when you see moments like this, it's stuff that, and I'll reference what I mentioned before. If you look at the game highlights and you look in the low left-hand corner of the screen as they're showing the wide shot, as the goal is being scored, you see Stephen Glass. You see him hopping up and down a couple of times in the low left-hand corner of the screen. That's what this game meant. It's what it meant to him. It's what it meant to Atlanta United. It's what it meant to the fans. It's what it meant to everyone across the board. So anybody that says it's not a rivalry, I'd be they would be mistaken. And at the same time, these are the games you can build from going forward in a season that is like no other season that we've seen so far.
Absolutely. And, bearing into that rivalry aspect, obviously anytime we face the Lions, we want to win. That's just who we are. It's in our inherent DNA as Five Stripes. This is Orlando's best iteration of this team that they've ever had. You've got players that are coming up that are making big waves in MLS as a whole with, Daryl Dike. Obviously, you have Nani, a great player altogether, and you've got players in that team that are forming together, that they've been working together in that unit since the offseason, but since preseason started, before all of this sort of came about. These guys had been forming since February, late January, February. So we have to understand that we're going against a team that's gelled, that are working well together right now. And even though we as a team are not on our best foot forward, we still have enough talent that once we do gel, we should get results again. I think it's in hindsight, and I said this today. It was really kind of funny. I said hindsight is 2020 today, and I realized that's probably now going to be a ruined catchphrase for like all of time, because now you have to say hindsight is 2020. But in that whole regard of it, we have to be mindful that this is a team that, even though we have very talented players on the pitch, it's a new coach. We're about to get into this, I'm sure, that we just lost one of our better players, one of our DPs, as he was sold. Obviously, it was a deal that made sense for the club, that made sense for him as a player. But we're now working with only having one DP on the pitch. And I love Barco, and I know Barco's a very talented person, and he's also, we're dealing with the rumors with him moving on as well, but one man can't be expected or required to carry a team, and I don't think Barco is expected or required to carry it, but we have to be understanding of the fact that we have a lot of pieces that we've relied on for the past couple of years that are missing. Joseph, Pitti, obviously we lost other key talented players this season by trades. So we just have to sort of understand that this is the team that we have at the moment. We have to be aware of the fact that they haven't had the time to gel like most other teams have. And, the change and shift of ownership, but coaching is going to disrupt the flow a little bit. I think, as Glass has said, it's going to take time. As he also said coming into this post-match, this tie, getting this point out of this game was huge for these guys. This is going to be motivation carrying them forward to go against Miami, which, talking about Miami, they had a game against Nashville. And for Atlanta, one of our biggest issues is getting shots on goal, right? Miami had shots on goal, but they're now having issues with getting to the back of the net. So you've got two teams right now that are having different problems, but I think in the end, and as we go into this and start talking about the matchup against Miami, I think it's going to be two teams. One, Atlanta, that now is riding on a little bit of confidence, is starting to maybe finally gel with their strikers, being able to finally gel with how they play together, and maybe we see some ingenuity and ideas in the final third. And then now we're also dealing with a team like Miami that has ideas and has ingenuity, and they just can't seem to make it work. Also, their defense is, what it is. But that's okay. You got Robles, you got LGP, and LGP is doing LGP things. But let's go ahead, and before we get to that, let's go ahead and talk about this, because this is kind of the biggest storyline that we've had in the past week, was that sale of Pity Martinez to Saudi Arabia. What were your thoughts on the move? Good, bad, ugly?
All right, let me give you the short version, and I'm going to call to the bullpen here real quick and bring Jason into the discussion. But quickly for me, good for him. Good move of business for Atlanta United. Generational money for Pity Martinez. Absolutely love to see it, and it reinforces what we're seeing with Atlanta United on the global market. Jason, what do you think?
You'll get the no video on me today. I'm just the producer in the background yelling, and you're like, where do you come from? I want to know what Kelly thinks on Pity Martinez, because we talked about it a lot this morning. Like, I feel like he didn't get the love that he necessarily deserved, and I don't know if maybe he is on the way out. What do you think of Pity's time in Atlanta?
Well, first, I do want to say, the defender said, God, is that you? And I would say, yes, that's probably God.
No.
I think it was a good move. I know that Pity had, obviously coming to Atlanta was the hopes of moving on to sort of the European clubs, making that move to Europe. I think as time went on, and he's gotten a little bit older, I think any sort of a move that's going to set him up with a really good salary. I believe it was a 4-year contract. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's what I saw.
That he got from this year. I think as a player, you can't say no to that kind of money. I mean, that's incredibly beneficial for your family. It's incredibly beneficial for your career to sort of show that that money is valuable and that you are worth that value of money. I think for Atlanta United, again, it's another good term of business. And this is the second highest transfer out of MLS. And again, it's both Atlanta United, and that just is a credit to the club for anybody that's looking to transfer here as star players, is that you're seeing Atlanta United is bringing people in and they're letting them go again for high record numbers. And that's, again, going to be a testament to itself with Atlanta United and just how they're able to turn the page and run those books with the profitability of players. I think for me, the biggest thing that I will look at seeing at some point this season, whether it's going to happen during this transfer window or during the winter transfer window, is this move on Barco and what we could possibly see his numbers going for. Because I think as far as the profit margin of return, I think we're going to see a bigger profit margin. With Barco, obviously, he's younger as a player. He's got a lot more room to grow. He has a lot more change in direction and sort of play ability, depending on where he does land. So I do think that that's something I look forward to seeing, because, again, that's going to be another record transfer out of here that's probably going to have us sitting at the 3 largest transfers, which is exciting. As an Atlanta United fan, that's exciting to have your club be the elite club for the transfers out of MLS.
Yeah, Barco will go into that top 3 for sure. Diego Rossi, if he ever gets sold, I think will be in that ballpark. The profitability on Barco is going to be a little tricky. I think it would have been the largest transfer out of MLS. I would have agreed that would happen. I thought $30 million was kind of the magic number coming into 2020. I don't know if that's going to be the number now. I think the pandemic has changed things, and it hasn't changed Barco's age. I mean, he doesn't stop getting older. He's still going to want to go, and you're going to want to do right by him because he's done right by the club. And that's a big part of what Atlanta United's done here with Pity. And I thought Darren, when he spoke with us on the Countdown to Kickoff, made that clear that this was something that Pity wanted. And when we hear the numbers, a 4-year deal, and you're talking about a salary in that $4.5 to $5 million range per year, that's a huge raise here. I mean, he's going to make in 1 year what he would have made here in 4 years. And that's not because Atlanta's underpaying. It's not because of MLS underpaying. It's because Saudi Arabia and clubs there have to overpay to get players to come. But at Pity's age, with a family, this is a move that he felt like he needed to make. I don't begrudge him at all. It's the right thing. Barco, at his age, wants to go to Europe and test himself against the best. We knew that was what was going to happen at some point. You know, in coming into 2020, I hoped it would happen at the end of the 2020 season. Once we got into the pandemic break, I thought that if there was the right kind of number, that it made it more likely that you could sell him in the summer because this year's so crazy anyway.
Yeah.
We'll see. If Fiorentina's interested, if Sevilla's interested, and they start bidding against one another, it's a great thing for Atlanta United. And we will see how this shakes out. But for Barco, for Pitti, I've felt like this for a little while. I think they're going to be appreciated down the road for their time in Atlanta more than maybe they were while they were here. They're different players than Miguel Almiron and then Tito Villalba, the first two faces of the team. They're different players. They are, I believe, more of an acquired taste. I think they are super technical, very unpredictable, not as vertical as Miguel and as Tito were, and some don't like that style as much as they like the other. Where I push back on it, don't have a problem if you liked other players more, but when you get people saying things like Pitti was no good here, it was a waste, it was a bust, that's utterly incorrect. And it's a bad precedent to set with the conversation around a player who was very good and a player who was known worldwide. If everybody else loves the guy, but this fan base is going to say that he was a bust, it's just not a good look. And I think that needs to change.
Sure. No, I agree with you. And I think that obviously I've been on Twitter. I'm well aware of how certain people feel about Pizzi Martinez.
I've had some comments thrown my way, and I'm like, wow, okay, that's crazy. Whatever.
I'm aware of it on both fronts. Obviously, you've got the people who love Pitti until, they bleed dry. You've got people that will be angry at Pitti no matter what, even if he just blew over a toothpick.
But that's the problem, and that's where I want to push back before we get into Miami, because we've talked a lot about other stuff, and I do want to get into the Miami stuff. You can not like Pitti as much as other players. That's fine. But to be angry with him in his game here, and that's the case, there's people out there, it makes no sense. There's nothing behind it. There's just not. He was a very, very good player during his time here. And to like others more, cool, no problems. But to say, to take it so far down the road to where people are trashing him, stop. Come on now.
Yeah, it's a little ridiculous. I agree with you. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the Miami matchup. And let's talk a little bit about how Miami played against Nashville. Obviously, like I said, we saw some shots from Pizarro. We saw some shots from Carranza. Obviously, Sweat is really great at combining and getting those players in the correct positions and the attacking third for Miami. But there's one player in particular that we didn't see last time we went up against Inter Miami, which is Blaise Matuidi. So obviously, the midfielder is here. The big talk of town, obviously coming in. Let's talk a little bit about Matuidi and what we could see from him in this match. My impression from watching the Nashville match is that he has this ability to do sort of what Nagby does to a different extent, where he cuts lines. Literally Nashville's midfield was cut in half. He didn't even have to go through the midfield, just went straight to the strikers. It's beautiful vision from him on the ball. And it makes me slightly afraid, obviously, going into this match, because when you have a player like that sits in the midfield and that can literally cut lines, and in a second you're from their defensive third to their attacking third, and it's sort of like a hyper reaction. It's going to be really interesting to see how our midfield goes one-on-one with Matuidi, and then also how our defensive line deals with that sort of quick turnaround of play. John, what are your thoughts on Matuidi and us going into Miami against a player like that?
Well, first and foremost, I'm wondering if he's in the starting 11. I know that obviously his conditioning is far better than most that are dropping into a situation like this, but he played 79 minutes back on Sunday night. And I wonder if he goes back to back, first and foremost. That's the first thought that I have in my head. If he does, then for Atlanta United, I want to know what the marking situation is going to be like, and what the assignments are going to be. Is it a Mo Adams, like you and I were talking offline before we came on today? Is it just what is that defensive midfield looking like? What is that? Who are those individuals? Not necessarily structure, but who are those individuals that would be tasked with keeping him in check if he does in fact start. So for me, that's the first thought with Matuidi. Coming off 79 minutes on Sunday, coming back midweek, does he start? How much does he go? If he does start, and is he just a part of the game day roster and come in late to cause problems like we saw against Nashville?
I understand that point, but I do think at this point in time, I feel like without Matuidi, and especially where they're sitting in the standings, they're dead last in the East. So getting points at this point in time for Inter Miami is crucial, right? Whether it's a point, whether it's 3 points, they need them to start climbing so they can even try and make playoffs this year. So for me, I think Matuidi is one of your best midfielders. If you have the ability to get him on the field, even if it's just for the same amount of time as he was on Sunday, or maybe 10 minutes less, whether he's on for 60, whether he's on for 70, I feel like it would probably be more beneficial for Miami, especially, like I said, for a team that needs to be able to start reaching the back of the net, that they have a guy like that on the field. Obviously, the way he combines with Carranza, with Pizarro, obviously going in with Sweat as well. They need the lethal threat of Matuidi in the midfield to be able to access those players, because outside of that, who's going to be making a difference? Just Pizarro? I mean, that's a lot of pressure to put on one person, and I don't think that, as we've seen prior to leading up here, I don't think that that's necessarily going to be the best path to go for Miami.
Well, I mean, you have Pizarro, you have Carranza, Pellegrini, Lewis Morgan off to the right-hand side, and somebody that I would like to ask about Lewis Morgan is Jarrett Smith, who is joining us now here at the bottom of the hour. Jarrett Smith, when I mention Lewis Morgan for Inter Miami, what comes to mind?
What comes to mind is a player who I had high hopes for in Glasgow, and who I'm excited to see him make the jump to MLS, because I want to see more guys make this move, because I think it's a good move for guys in Scotland, not necessarily just from Celtic, but even guys from Aberdeen, St. Mirren, Kilmarnock, the like, to make that jump from, hey, you may not be the right guy in Scotland, you may not be that guy in England, but come to MLS, be that jumping off point where you can get more attention. And then make potentially bigger moves. So I'm glad to see him doing this. But what comes to mind for me with Lewis Morgan is, man, it feels real similar to some of those Julian Gressel moments you've had in the past. Not to say they're exactly the same player, but damn, it looks like the same kind of stretches that he would go through, where Lewis Morgan I think he's better on the ball personally in terms of like creating a little bit more space, but just putting in those early balls, creating those chances, and like, he's going to get the ball out wide, and it's going to cause problems. It's just a matter of, you want to limit those problems when he gets it out wide. And there are times where and the more we see of him, the more I want to get used to the idea of, do I want him to pump in those crosses more often, or do I want to step into him and dare him to try and beat me on the dribble more often?
Okay, well, then let's go into this to discuss about Morgan, and obviously, so Morgan, Agudelo, Carranza, Pizarro, Figal, and Sweat, these combining players that will obviously combine with the midfielders as well. But let's talk about who we could possibly see going against them. Obviously, as we've heard, good old Escobar had yellow card accumulation, so he will not be playing this game against Inter Miami. Let's talk about that specific position right now, and then we'll go into who Morgan would actually go up against, whether it be Bello or Castillo. But let's talk about who we could possibly see sitting in that right back position, because as we have all been well aware, and as John has so effortlessly called him, the cyborg Lennon was supposed to have a day off, like 2 matches in a row, and still has to play full minutes for the team. So do we see this as finally being the night that they give Lennon a rest, or is this match too important to do that? Especially missing Escobar in this lineup, do we risk even having Lennon not start this game?
Jarrett, what do you think?
At some point, you got to give Lennon a break. I don't know if this is when you do it. If you ask him, like, hey, I need you to barrel through this stretch, because I think you have Nashville after this one, correct? Correct?
Yeah, you got
like
Nashville.
wind up. I mean, does he have 180 high intensity minutes left in those legs right now without more of a break? I don't know the answer to that question, but he feels like the right choice for right back there. You could go Anton Walks out there if you wanted to, maybe slide in a Lawrence Weick or a George Campbell into center back if you wanted to. We haven't seen him play
in that right back role. Could you not just see slotting in Weick or Gallagher there at right back?
Gallagher was the next guy I was going to go with. I don't know how Glassy would feel about that at MLS level. I don't think it's a matter of trust or lack thereof. He's going to trust Gallagher. He's had him at the USL level for a little bit, and he's seen what John Gallagher can do. And John Gallagher has been up for the moments energy-wise. Could it be one of those situations where you ask Lennon, hey, I need you to give me 45, 50 minutes, and I need John Gallagher to go out there and do what he's done in the games we've seen him with Atlanta this year, which is come on the field and just basically be lightning in a bottle. He doesn't necessarily have to create a ton of chances, but just a lot of activity up and down, kind of give Miami a little bit of something to think about, but it just depends on the game state as well. Gallagher's a guy I really like, and I know Aberdeen fans, I think we're kind of up and down on him. And I know Atlanta United 2 fans are familiar with him. Is he up for this? I don't know if he's up for it for 90 minutes, and it's not a slide on him. It's a different level. But I think the key to a lot of that is also Jurgen Damm. Is Jurgen Damm going to be able to give you 60 minutes or more?
Yeah, and then John, you've obviously seen a lot of Atlanta United 2 play. You've seen Gallagher in action. Do you think he's up for the moment, whether he comes to sub on for Lennon or whether he starts? Do you think he's up for a moment like this against the likes, of Ben Sweat or Figal? Like, do we see him going against these guys and dealing with Agudelo or Morgan or Matuidi or Pizarro? I mean, like you've got a combinations of dangerous threats. Do we see him being able to handle that moment?
I think we do. And it backs up Jarrett's previous point from the time that Stephen Glass has seen John Gallagher with Atlanta United too. Would I see him in a starting role in this matchup coming? Not necessarily, but what I am envisioning is just Jurgen Damm starting right wing, Lennon starting right back, Gallagher coming in when Lennon is basically out of gas and that tank is either on C or D. It's lower than E. And that's how much gas he would not have in the tank. It's got to be C or D. And then I could see a Gallagher coming in at that point as an idea here. But no, ready for the challenge, no question about it. Once again, we've seen him with Atlanta United with a cup of coffee. We've all seen him with Atlanta United too. I think that he's up for it in whatever form that he's put in, if he's put in this match against Inter Miami.
All right. So before we move on to Dom, because I know Jarrett brought that up, I do want to talk about the other side of the field. Obviously, as we were talking about Luis Morgan, a player that Jarrett knows very well. Jarrett, would you put Bello against Morgan? Would that be a good combination, a good lineup for you think?
I want to do it no matter what, because I want, even if it's not, you want to put young guys in a position to succeed. I want Bello out there anyway, because I want to see him fail or succeed accordingly. I think he's going to succeed more often than not. And I think that success percentage is going to jump up every time you give him time on the field. But I want him to see everything. I can't have him out there, across the sports metaphors. I can't have him out there being a loogie specialist only dealing with one type of player. I need him to be out there and understand, I need you to deal with this guy and to close him down. Bello's quick enough and smart enough to do it, but also what he gives you going the other way. Bello has proven he can be a damn problem on those overlaps. And we talked about this last night. You're going to have to take risks at times, getting guys forward and put your back line out there to get stretched out. And sometimes you're going to ask guys to make big defensive moments like Bello did in Orlando the other night. You're going to have to ask him to do that again, I think. I'm absolutely asking him to do that.
Yeah. Did you say loogie specialist? Like loogie, like Haka loogie specialist? That's the first time I've ever heard that.
No, loogie is a left-handed one-out guy.
Okay, great.
It's a baseball term.
I went somewhere. I was like,
no, it's fine. It's a baseball term. It's a specialist, a left-handed specialist who you bring out of the bullpen to get one out.
Okay.
Eric O'Flaherty was a really good loogie for a couple of years for the Atlanta Braves when the bullpen was in full effect.
Oh my Lord. Okay. In agreeing with you, outside of the loogie thing, I think Bello has been.
I like that's where it stops. That is your Rubicon. I appreciate this.
Bello has been a real treat this year, obviously, as you said, in the overload on the wing, as well as combining with players. But defensively, I feel like he's been very solid. It was a different look than we saw him at all last year. Defensively, he's become a lot more solid, a lot more aggressive, and he plays the ball well. He's not making any dangerous or silly tackles. He's not putting the team in a dangerous position when it comes to trying to strip the ball away in their defensive third. He's being very mindful, being very disciplined, which is very nice to see from such a young player. Really quickly, I want to get your take on Bello so far this season, John, and then I do want to move on to where we possibly see this midfield sitting. I'm already assuming that we're seeing another Anton Walkes, Miles Robinson center back duo, as I've seen. But let's get a take on Bello and let's start moving into the midfield.
No, I think that, this is the George Bello that folks wanted to see. When you're 100% healthy and you're in game rhythm, this is the guy that everybody's been anticipating. Then you have Batman and Robin there as your center backs with Anton Walkes and Miles Robinson. But no, it's been a treat to see Bello, and we've seen times where Bello has just gone forward and been a part of the play offensively. Do we see that as a part of things when he's able to release and go up against either Figal or Reyes or something like that? When you see that kind of activity offensively, I think that that'll be another interesting aspect of looking at Bello in this particular match. But when you have Bello at 100% and he's getting game reps, he's getting comfortable there on the left-hand side, you're seeing what we see with George, and it's been a real treat to see.
Yeah, it really has. All right, so last game played, we saw a starting midfield trio of Larry, Hyndman, and Remedi. Obviously, that's a little bit more defensive of a midfield than we are used to seeing, because we do at least have Remedi as that bulldog midfielder. And then we also have, sort of more inventive midfielders, as we have seen with Mo Adams, Husethu, or Hyndman. This is a game where the midfield is going to be extremely important, obviously with the likes of Pizarro, Matuidi. Who do we see as being that starting midfield trio? Because as I would also like to mention, just like John Lennon, Remedi's had a lot of minutes this season. Do we see him in the starting lineup?
That's the $1 million question for me. Is it going to be Remedi with all of his minutes that he's racked up? Is it a Mo Adams? I'm looking at Hyndman and Husethu as the other two as a part of that, but that third one is the question for me, and it's probably for me Remedi and Adams, and then having game state can dictate. Have Jeff come in, saying maybe give you 15 or 20 on the back end in the second half if he's able to. Jarrett, what do you think?
I'm still trying to get over the John Lennon slip up.
I just realized I did that.
Imagine what the starting 11 could look like, Jarrett. What do you think?
I kept waiting. I was like, please tell me you're going to pay this off with some imagined jokes. Please tell me you're going to pay this off with some imagined jokes.
Uh-huh.
I wonder if Remedi's gas tank is running out as well. And this is something that happens in these situations where, you're playing all these compact games, and even the teams with the most roster flexibility and depth are going to run into this issue. I think you're going to see Mo Adams. I've been frustrated with Mo Adams a bit, not to say that he hasn't played well, but to say that he's better than that. I think we've seen him play better than he has. Now would be a good time for him to kind of flip that switch and perform better than he has, even with the ball at his feet. I know that was the knock when they went and got him from Chicago of, well, he can't really play with the ball at his feet. He's just a straight-up destroyer. Like, nah, he can play with the ball at his feet. I think he's got to speed it up in his head, though, to make zero sense. He has to speed it up and slow it down. Like, he needs everything. He needs to slow things down a bit for himself in his head, but he's going to have to play faster with the ball, especially against a Miami team that might press at home, especially in that heavy weather down there in Miami. It's going to get hot. It's going to get heavy. It's not going to be pleasant. I mean, for every time we hear about oh, can he do it on a cold, rainy night at Stoke? I don't give a damn. Can he do it on like a hot afternoon in Miami or Orlando? That's where I want to see it, where the legs turn into heavy weights and you can't breathe. I think you see Adams. I think you see Hyman. And Hyman is. I think you're hoping Hyman recaptures what you saw in March before the season stopped, and Rossetto is just. I like what he's got. It kind of reminds me of some moments that you've had in the past with some players where they get in here, they haven't synced everything up yet, and I understand if he hasn't synced everything up yet because the season has been so stop and start, where you can see they're thinking about the game a step ahead, and it's just a matter of getting everybody synced on the same page. And I think Rossetto can fit into that and be a really fun piece for this offense. But it's going to take all of them getting forward and kind of getting over that hesitation, I think, of getting guys forward. And then I think you can help unlock him to support a guy like Barco.
I agree. Rossetto's actually been a nice joy for me to watch. He just seems very calm on the ball. Almost like Magby can get out of certain situations when he's come up 1v1 with people. So Rossetto has been something that I have enjoyed watching. Same as Hyman. Hyman has had little flares and magic. He was obviously very good in this past Orlando game, but it would be really nice to see him sort of break out of his shell, create some magic, take some risk in the final third, like we saw with Nashville, like we saw, early in March. We want to sort of see that spark again from him. I think we're getting back towards that point in time. I do think, as you guys have said, that we probably will see Mo Adams. I can't imagine.
It took you a while, but you got there, and I appreciate you for it.
I can't imagine that we would start Remedi, but again, with a game like this where it is sort of crucial and on the line, in my eyes, we save him for Saturday against Nashville, but I do think that he needs a break. So could we see Larry back again? I'm not so sure. The midfield for Miami is very fast, very, very youthful, so I don't necessarily know if I want to stick Larry in that back line, but if I had to say, I would say that the midfield trio would be Mo Adams, Rossetto, and Hyman, just because Rossetto did come on as a sub, so he's got a little bit fresher legs than a Remedi would. And if we need to have Remedi subbed on later in the game or Larry subbed on later in the game, we have that ability, but that's sort of where I see our midfield. Now, going forward, obviously, as we were preparing for the last game, Pity is no longer available. Who do we see sitting in that number 10 spot? How do we see this lining up? Do you guys think, big question, because John was able to put a point on the board, do we see him getting the win on that starting lineup spot, or do we still see it being Cubo Torres? I mean, it's a question. It's probably not the best question in the world, but how do we see that lining up as far as the attack going forward? Jared, I'll start with you. Do we see Barco sitting in at that number 10 spot? And then if we do we also see Jurgen Damm getting a starting spot on the right? And then how do we format this out?
Yeah, I think you're seeing Barco up there, but I think you're seeing Barco with some creativity. And as things move forward and as guys get forward, if you can just get everyone out of the shell and just get the crop out and just get them, kind of whip them a bit to get forward on the ball more, I think you can have Barco have a bit more freedom to find what he wants and have Rossetto step up and contribute into that role of a guy who can kind of play that 8-10 hybrid where he can help distribute the ball, help become a playmaker, let Dom make the runs. I think it is Cubo Torres in this game. I get that John is the hot hand after that goal, and it's awesome. Remember he was robbed by one in Orlando in the first game of the MLS's back tournament in a very similar situation. I love what he can give you in that respect. But at the pace they want to play, I think I'd rather see Cubo in this situation because of what he can give you if he gets going. And it's one of those you kind of want to – I think you want to stick with the guy that when he gets going, he can really get things going. I know that's kind of a repetitive thing to say, but I think he can be that guy. So I want to see if Cubo keeps – if Cubo keeps getting chances, if he can kind of work his way into form, and I think you give him that opportunity.
I think once he gets his first goal, it will start a snowball effect. But John, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'm down with that. I think that it's going to be the Kubo and John hybrid. But I think that considering that Kubo has played 161 minutes in the last 2 matches in very short order, my guess is that John is going to be leaning more than the 19 minutes that he played last time. Maybe we see Manuel Castro with a cameo up top as a part of this whole dynamic as well. So I would go with Kubo and John. And keeping Castro in my hip pocket. But, yeah, I'm looking at probably Barco, Kubo, and Dom up top.
Okay. So we're still missing a very crucial piece on the left side. Who do we see getting that star on the left? On the left, are we seeing Mulroney because of his efforts, or how do we see that play out? Correct me if I'm wrong, or that we still need a left winger. Well,
no, I've got Barco on the left, Kubo up top, Dom on the right.
Who's number 10?
I've got Lennon. Kidding. No, I've got Barco as the 10. And I think that Barco will have free reign. Hisechu will probably be in a couple of different places as the match goes. And I've got in my midfield, I've got Mo, I've got Hisechu, and I've got Heinemann. And then the Fab Four in the back.
Okay. I can't count.
Jared, what do you think?
I guess overall, I'm looking at this as, let's see, left to right on the back is Bello, Walks, Robinson. You're not going to break up the center partnership.
Nope.
Ask Lennon to give you what you can.
Yeah.
Adams sitting in with Remedi or with Heinemann, for a bit. And then you have 5 subs to play with. This is a different time and place than we've dealt with in the past. So you can make those changes in the midfield if you absolutely have to. Zatu sitting up more as like an 8-10 hybrid, Barco floating out a bit to the left, Dom on the right with Kubo up top. You can have, Barco float around and be that playmaker because Bello's going to make those runs on the left-hand side. You can create the overloads there if you need to. It's real damn tempting, though, to kind of swap pieces around, though, and put Barco in that 10 and have a guy like Mulroney play off that left side. But right now, I think I'm good with Mulroney coming off the bench late, being that guy that runs at defenses late when they're tired. Give me 15 minutes of hell with you. Give me what Sydney Leroux was when she was like 21 years old coming on for the women's national team, where she was guaranteed like a goal a game because she was running at exhausted defenders. And she was just running past people whose legs were tired, and she was out there running like a 4-6.
That's what made me love Sydney Leroux. Outside of just her.
Jarrett wants the full NASCAR formation. I know that's what Jarrett wants right now, late in the match.
Question though.
It's going to be like guys running in. It's going to be, Adam John came in. We've got Dom on the right and Mulroney on the left, and we're just going to pump balls into to John, who's just going to knock them down for fast guys.
So, as a possibility, as we're talking about this 5-sub thing, obviously there were reports of where Meza could possibly be able to contribute minutes in this game on Wednesday. What are our thoughts on that? Do we see him possibly being able to sub in for Lennon?
And then try to
do a center back and then push forward.
Yeah, rejigger your back line and see. My guess is that Meza comes in as one of those 5 subs if he's able to have some kind of game action, he comes in as that substitute. Not knowing how he's been going at practice and how healthy and how the physios have been keeping an eye on, the sports science staff have been keeping an eye on him. I would say that Meza gets your cup of coffee as one of the 5 subs, and then he starts on the weekend. That would be the plan in my head, not knowing how his physical state is, but that's just off of what I would think in reintroducing players slowly. As I'm sitting here and I've been watching All or Nothing Tottenham Hotspur, and I got into episodes 4 and 5 with the festive fixtures and all the injuries, and so that's now in my brain as to how I'm trying to process things. So gradual reintroduction of Meza, if he's able to go, have him start on the weekend.
All right. Now let's get into the crucial talk here, because we just went over formations and how we think the game might play out. But here is the big question. Jared, what do you think the final score prediction for this game is?
Here we go.
All this talk about getting guys forward and causing problems, I think it's just talk right now, because I think it's a 0-0 draw again. I think you still see good defense. You're still impressed with what Anton Walkes gives you, and it looks like such a good signing to have him. And you do have a wealth of young options in the center back area. Again, this team is Walkes is, I think, 23, 24. Robinson's 23, 24. Wyke is, I think, 22. And Campbell, I believe, is 19 or 20.
Campbell's 19, I believe.
He has the rap sheet of a 30-year-old. It's amazing. But I think this is a 0-0 draw again. I'm really looking at a guy like Abarca or Rossetto to really step up and harass Blaise Matuidi if he's going to play in this game. I don't want to show him any respect. I don't want that to be a thing. But we want to protect skill players in this league. I'm totally okay with that. Very good with protecting skill players in this league, but I'm not going to show a bunch of respect to guys who might have a lot of international caps and international renown. No. Just because you have that doesn't mean I'm going to show you respect. We're going to pressure you on the ball. We're going to get the hit in right as you get rid of the ball. John, this will apply to you, I think. Playing through the edge of the whistle and not to the whistle, so to speak. I'm looking for those guys to pressure Matuidi, not to let him try and dictate the game from a deep lying position and put Pizarro on an island. But I think that the legs are going to be tired on both ends. I think it plays out to a 0-0 draw.
Okay. All right. Do you now, just so we can go ahead and get you wrapped up and ready to go, do you have any final thoughts on this match outside of just your score prediction and how you are so amazed by Bello and the Loogie effect?
I'm glad that's sticking with you. I think I'm looking forward to this game, but I'm also really looking forward to the weekend, and not just for Atlanta, but for the rest of the league, because this is the second to last game in this marathon sprint. That is going to be the last game. We're going to see some kicks in that last game, to go to like a running metaphor here, where somebody's going to use their last kick in that last game, where it's going to be, hey, we've got a little bit of a break before the next game's kickoff after this six-game hellfire stretch. And, man, that last game this upcoming weekend, not just for Atlanta, but for the rest of the league, could be absolutely bonkers with people going for it, and I'm here for it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jared, for joining us. I'll go ahead and let you log off for the night. Really appreciate you joining us on the run-up.
Absolutely. Y'all take care.
You good?
Yeah. All right, John, let's get to your very, I know everybody is patiently waiting on the edge of their seat. Score prediction, and it not be exactly what I think it's going to be. But I'm very interested.
No. It will not be the black velvet driving slipper lock of the week 2-1. No, I think that just because of this running stretch of games, I think that it's going to be about half that. I say Kubo gets off the schneid, 1-0 Atlanta United.
Okay. All right. So you still see the likes of the Miami striker and not being able to hit the back of the net?
Yes, the Miami not so sound machine, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, do we want to bring the voice of God back on to get his reaction of how he could possibly see this match playing out?
Voice of God?
Okay, I guess. I think it's going to be a little sloppy, because I think both teams are going to be feeling it a bit. There's a lot of games in a short period of time, and both teams have looked tired already. So you add another one to it. And Miami played on Sunday. Miami's played a lot of the same guys as well, so they haven't rotated a ton. I think Diego Alonso will be pretty conservative for Miami. That he doesn't really have a whole lot of other options. Their best option is going to be Blaise Matuidi picking something out and delivering a through ball, probably to Julian Carranza, although Robbie Robinson might get the start because he's fresher. I think Atlanta can handle that. Can Atlanta create anything going the other way? It depends on who's in the lineup. If Jurgen Damm can give you 45, I think he gets the start here because of the issues on the back line. I think that could create some opportunities with some fairly fresh legs, and Dom's been really effective in his time on the field. So if it goes the way I think it will go in that way, with Atlanta fresher, with Miami not threatening and really struggling to pose a serious threat, and they're going to sit a little bit deeper, that's going to help Atlanta deal with any kind of pressure more. Miami, I just don't think they have the legs to go out and chase you. I think it could be 2-0 Atlanta. I do. I think Atlanta will be fresh or take advantage. I think Miami's style of play suits Atlanta right now, will help them get comfortable quicker, and I just don't know who's going to be the threat for Miami at this point.
I actually, thank you, God. I appreciate you and blessing us with your thoughts.
I am in a very, very, very good mood.
I actually am going to agree. I think it's going to be just because of tired legs. We're coming towards the end of a stretch. I do agree with Jared. It's going to probably the last game is going to be the sort of all-out brawl with a bunch of teams. But I do feel like this game's probably going to get sloppy at points. People are running really tired. You're going to see maybe a lack of concentration. Maybe they just sort of glaze over at a point in time and don't catch on to something that they should be aware of that's happening. I actually am going to go with the Velvet Slippers. I'm going to do 2-1 Atlanta.
Wow.
I love
Evening Bandit.
that's just what I feel in my gut. I do feel like Kubo Torres will finally hit the back of the net, but I also feel like somebody from Miami is going to figure out how to also touch the back of that net.
Set pieces.
Which is something we, again, need to work on defending. I know that's something that's been talked about by Jason, by you, John. It's something that we definitely need to work on as a team, but I do feel like that's our weakest point. So would not surprise me if that's sort of where it ends up happening. But I'm all in for that 2-1. I've made my prediction. I'm so sorry, everybody. I know that I was getting on John about it, and then I did it myself. So, but really quickly, let me actually bring Voice of God back on, because I want him to tell everybody where they can find the pre-match stuff, where they can listen, where they can watch, that type of thing.
Hello.
Okay, here's what we got tomorrow. So stoppage time, 2 o'clock, facebook.com/929 The Game. Mike and I will be there. Then we will go to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and we'll be calling the game from one of the booths at the Benz. And we'll be on the radio at 7 o'clock for the Five Stripes Countdown for an hour. Kickoff will be just after 8. We'll have the full-time report for an hour after the final whistle. You can listen on 92.9 The Game on radio. You can also listen on the radio.com app or the Atlanta United app.
Awesome. Okay. John, where will you be during the game? Are you also going to be in the stadium? Are you going to be, what are you going to be doing?
I will be in Office HD, keeping an eye on things, and be manning the at Soccer Down Here Twitter account, having conversations with the folks, and if any folks want to follow along with all of I can't use the word play-by-play, but the temporal observations that are made in the timeline.
I don't think you have the facilities for that, big man.
No, I really don't. That's not really a surprise. So there will be some typing, there will be some tweeting, and I'll be the one doing it, but it'll be down here in Office HD.
Awesome. Well, I will be at home watching in Office de la Francis, I guess. Probably drinking a glass of wine. Hey, I might even put my couch back outside on my porch. It's been so nice outside. And it's definitely not going to be like Miami with muggy and possibly rainy and gross.
And 90-minute to 2 hour delays before matches start and in goalless draws.
So much fun. But again, you can, where can they find you, John? Do they still need to follow you so you can follow
Yes. Yes, at OSG Nelson on the Twitters. Please follow so I can follow more people back.
It's garbage.
It is, Coach, because of the algorithm, and I keep trying and get the blue check mark, but they don't want to listen to me.
That ain't true.
It is so true.
You can find me at the Kelly Francis. You can find all of us on Twitter at the Long Shoot for Jason Longshore. I'm not entirely familiar with Jarrett's off the top of my head.
Jarrett_Smith.
There you go. Oh my gosh, so easy. I should have remembered that. But again, you can find all of us, ask us questions tomorrow, live during the game. We will be back this Friday at 8 p.m. to preview the last match in this run, which is Nashville. It's going to be super exciting. It'll be 8:30, I believe, on Saturday. We will be back on air at 7 to give you everything you need to know. Recap for the match tomorrow, and then obviously a preview for the game against Nashville. Thank you guys so much for joining. We kept you 2 minutes over. I apologize. Let's go 5 strikes. That's all I got to say.